won't happen. We don't believe it should happen. We believe it may well be unlawful, and we believe it's time for it to stop. So I'll introduce the first speaker I've got is the prospective candidate for the Liberal Party from Poplar and Limehouse. Please welcome Jonathan Fryer.
Thanks very much indeed, John, and good evening, everybody. In the great litany of Phil's attributes which you read out, John, you missed off one, which is the reason I know of Phil, his work as a photographer and filmmaker. And a lot of that has involved recording life in the East End, Brick Lane and other areas. This is someone who really is proud of his community, and I think it's a disgrace that he's been treated in the way that he is. And I bring a message from the Liberal Democrat group on the council. I'm not a councillor myself, but they believe you've been treated very shoddily and certainly will be following this issue up. Now, there are a number of interrelated questions here, as well as several uncomfortable questions, some of which John has already pointed out. The first is the whole importance of environmental education. By coincidence, my second degree is in environmental education, so it's something that I'm particularly keen about. And it's essential in a borough like Tower Hamlets that work in the schools is carried out to make sure that from the youngest age, people of all our diverse communities are aware of so many issues, from recycling through to proper behaviour and waste management and limiting waste. And Phil has done really sterling work on that, and it's important that work continues, and I'm astounded that in a sense the council is putting a question mark over that by the way that he has been treated. The second issue, of course, relates to privatisation and the whole contractual side. Now, I'm one of those who has never been ideologically in love with privatisation. On the contrary, I got involved in politics when Mrs. Thatcher reared her head in 1979, and have been depressed, quite frankly, that not only Conservative governments but also Labour government has often gone, to my mind, too far down the privatisation road. But as has rightly been said by John, if there is going to be privatisation, if things are going to be put out, they must be put out to competitive tendering. And I cannot understand how the council has proceeded in the way that it has. I'm not a lawyer, but I have stood several times for the European Parliament, and the reference was made to European legislation. It does seem to me to be at least fishy and possibly illegal, and therefore certainly should be followed up. Now, the other issue which has been related to may involve Phil's sexuality. I, as an individual and representing the party as well, am totally committed to LGBT rights, not just on paper, but in practice. It's one thing for a council to agree to accept that somebody's sexuality should not affect the way they are treated. They should have total equality of treatment, expectation and opportunity. But alas, sometimes that in practice doesn't happen. Behind a verbal affirmation of equal rights, there can be prejudice, there can be discrimination. And in this borough, as many of you will know, alas, we have recently had a rise in homophobic attacks and some pretty nasty comments from some people on gay and lesbian issues. So although there is no prima facie evidence as yet that this was directly involved in Phil's case, it's certainly something that needs to be answered by the council and addressed properly, because as I understand it, they haven't really investigated the complaint that was made. So, in a nutshell, the work that Phil has been doing now since 2000, I think, has been of tremendous value for our school kids of all communities. I personally believe that that work should not be put out for privatisation anyway. but I particularly believe that the way it is done is probably illegal, definitely unsatisfactory, and an absolutely unjustified slap in the face for Phill personally. So I'm delighted to be here with people from, I believe, all of the political parties represented in Tower Hamlets, delighted to share a platform with Unison, and I hope that this meeting will be the launch of a campaign that will actually get the decision reversed.